I never thought I'd see my entire family fall apart in one night. But that Christmas, it happened right in front of me. We were all gathered around a long oak dining table, plates stacked with turkey, ham, and mashed potatoes, the smell of cinnamon pie filling the air. Laughter bounced off the walls, but I wasn't laughing. I was watching their faces, waiting for the truth I had buried deep for years to finally come out. And then, like a knife slicing through a perfect cake, it did. A secret so dark, so poisonous, exploded in the room that every smile froze. Every glass of wine trembled in their hands. My father's face turned pale. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. My brother's eyes widened because he knew he was finished. That night, the outsider they had mocked, ignored, and cast aside became the one who tore their perfect little world apart. And when the screaming began, when the truth shattered their pride like glass on marble, it wasn't just words that cut through the air. It was betrayal. Betrayal that ended with blood on the floor. But before I tell you how it came to that, before I explain why my family, the people who were supposed to protect me, became my greatest enemies, I need you to understand something. I wasn't always a monster. I was made into one. So if you want to know how this all happened, don't blink. Because once I start, you won't want to stop. And before we go further, make sure you like, watch, and subscribe for more, because this story is just getting started. My name is Ethan Carter. I grew up in a small town in Virginia. My family wasn't just any family. We were the Carters, wealthy, respected, and from the outside, picture perfect. My father, Robert Carter, was a lawyer with connections so deep he could make a judge change his ruling with one phone call. My mother, Linda, was the elegant housewife, the kind who baked cookies for church fundraisers and smiled in every family photo like life was flawless. Then there was my brother, Daniel, 2 years older than me, charming, athletic, golden-haired, the kind of guy everyone wanted to be friends with. He was the favorite, the pride of my parents. And me, I was the outsider. It wasn't because I was different. I studied hard, worked hard, and even tried sports. But it didn't matter. Daniel's shadow swallowed me whole, and my parents never let me forget it. When he scored touchdowns, they cheered like kings and queens at a parade. When I brought home straight A's, all I got was a nod. Sometimes not even that. But the worst part wasn't the neglect. It was the whispers, the late-night arguments I overheard through the walls. The things my mother would say when she thought I wasn't listening. He's not like us, Robert. He doesn't belong here. I told you from the beginning. That sentence haunted me, over and over. I didn't belong. And so, I carried that loneliness everywhere. School, birthdays, even Christmas mornings when Daniel tore open the biggest gifts while mine felt like an afterthought. They didn't see it, but every slight, every rejection, carved me hollow inside, until I started seeing them not as my family, but as my enemies. Still I tried. God, I tried to be part of them, but they never let me in. And then came the year everything changed. It was 2 weeks before Christmas when I stumbled across the first piece of the secret. I was in Dad's study, searching for printer paper, when I opened a drawer I wasn't supposed to. Inside was a stack of letters with my name on them. At first, I thought they were mine, but when I pulled one open, my hand began to shake. It wasn't written by me. It wasn't written to me. It was about me. I froze as I read the words, my heart pounding. They weren't just letters. They were records, legal documents. And the truth hit me like a sledgehammer. I wasn't my father's son. I wasn't even supposed to be a Carter. The blood drained from my face. My whole life, every whisper, every cold stare, every half smile from my mother suddenly made sense. She wasn't just cruel. She was hiding something. And my father had known all along. I shoved the letters back, my chest burning, but it was too late. The truth was a fire I couldn't put out. I spent nights digging through files, tracing signatures, piecing together the puzzle they thought I'd never solve. And with every discovery, my anger grew. By Christmas Eve, I wasn't just angry. I was ready. I told myself I'd stay quiet, that I'd swallow the truth like I always had. But when I sat at that long oak table, looking into their smug faces, listening to their empty laughter. Something inside me snapped. I raised my glass, and with one sentence, I cracked the perfect Carter family wide open. But here's the thing about secrets. Once they come out, you can't control what happens next. And what happened that night was more brutal than I ever imagined. Because by the time Christmas morning came, someone was dead. When I said someone was dead by Christmas morning, I wasn't exaggerating. I can still smell the iron scent of blood mixed with pine needles from the Christmas tree. I can still hear the sound of my mother screaming, her voice echoing to the walls of our perfect Carter home. And I can still see Daniel, my brother, the golden child, standing frozen with blood on his hands, his eyes darting from me to the lifeless body on the floor. But let me take you back to the moment it all snapped. The dinner table was warm, lit with candles and filled with laughter that felt rehearsed. My father had just raised his glass to make a toast when I interrupted him. My heart was hammering in my chest, but my voice was steady. "To family," I said, lifting my glass. "Though some of us here know it isn't really family, don't we?" Silence. Forks stopped clinking. Daniel looked at me like I'd just grown horns. My mother's face stiffened first. Her perfect red lipstick couldn't hide the way her jaw clenched. My father, usually so controlled, swallowed hard. "What are you talking about, Ethan?" he asked, his voice calm but sharp, like a blade sliding out of its sheath. I leaned forward, resting my elbows on the table. "I'm talking about the letters, the documents in your study, Dad. Or should I say, Robert?" I spat his name like poison. "Because apparently I'm not even your son." Gasps rattled around the table. My aunt dropped her napkin. My cousin stared like she was watching a car crash. And then it happened. My mother slammed her fork down, so hard it bent. "Enough," she hissed. "We will not do this here." But it was too late. The truth was out, and for the first time in years, I felt powerful. Daniel leaned back, smirking. "So that's it? You found out? God, Ethan, you think you're the victim? You were never one of us. You were the charity case. The mistake Mom should have gotten rid of." The room spun. His words didn't just cut, they gutted me. And then my father spoke, his voice low, almost trembling. "Ethan, I tried to protect you." "Protect me?" I laughed bitterly. "By lying? By making me live in a house where I was treated like trash? By letting him," I pointed at Daniel, "mock me my entire life?" The shouting started then. My mother shrieking at me to shut up, my father trying to calm things down, Daniel egging me on, calling me names I'd heard all my life. Loser, mistake, outsider. The storm built until it broke. I don't know who threw the first punch. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was him. But in seconds, Daniel and I were grappling, plates crashing to the floor, glasses shattering under our feet. My father tried to pull us apart, but Daniel shoved him back so hard he stumbled into the Christmas tree, knocking ornaments everywhere. Then came the sound, a sharp crack, a scream, and blood. When I looked down, my mother was on the floor, her head bleeding where it had hit the corner of the table. Her eyes were open, but they didn't see us anymore. The room froze. Daniel's chest heaved, his fist still clenched, blood dripping from his knuckles. He hadn't meant to push her that hard. Or maybe he had. I'll never know. My father felt his knees, cradling her, whispering her name over and over like he could pull her back with sheer will. And me? I stood there, trembling, torn between horror and something darker, something like satisfaction. Because in that moment, the woman who had called me a mistake, who had made my life hell, was gone. But satisfaction doesn't last. Not when death is involved. My father lifted his head, his eyes red, his face twisted with rage. He looked straight at me. Not Daniel. Not the son who had pushed her. Me. "This is your fault," he spat. "You brought this poison into our home. You destroyed us." My breath caught. He wasn't blind. He had seen it happen. But he still blamed me. Always me. Daniel wiped his bloody hands on the tablecloth, his smirk gone, replaced with cold calculation. "Dad's right," he said. "You want a revenge? Well, congrats. You got it. Now you'll pay for it. And that's when I realized they were going to pin this on me. The outsider, the mistake, the easy target. I stumbled back, my mind racing. No one else would believe me. Not the relatives who had seen me explode at dinner. Not the cousins who had watched me throw the first punch. In their eyes, I was already guilty. I had to get out. But as I turned for the door, Daniel lunged. He tackled me to the ground, his weight crushing me. His fist slammed into my face once, twice, until stars exploded in my vision. "You're not walking out of here alive," he growled in my ear. My father's voice thundered behind him. "Do it. Finish it." That was the moment I knew. Whatever bond one thought we had as a family was gone. I wasn't just the outsider anymore. I was the enemy. But survival has a way of waking up something primal inside you. With blood in my mouth and pain exploding in my ribs, I grabbed the nearest thing I could, half of a shattered wine bottle, and drove it upward. Daniel screamed, clutching his arm, blood spraying across the rug. I shoved him off me and staggered to my feet. My father lunged, but I swung the bottle at him too, forcing him back. For the first time in my life, I saw fear in his eyes. I bolted through the living room, through the front door, and into the freezing December night. My chest was on fire, my face swollen, but I didn't stop running. I didn't stop until I was blocks away, hiding in the shadows, gasping for air. Behind me, the Carter house glowed with Christmas lights, hiding the nightmare inside. One dead, one bleeding, one vowing to destroy me. And me, running into the darkness with nothing but rage, fear, and the knowledge that my life as I knew it was over. But here's the thing about running. You can't run forever. Because the next morning, the police came knocking. And they weren't there to ask questions. They were there to arrest me. The knock at the door wasn't gentle. It was hard, steady, the kind of knock that makes your stomach twist before you even see who's there. I was hiding at a friend's rundown apartment on the edge of town, trying to scrub the blood off my shirt in the sink when the pounding came. My friend, Tyler, looked at me with wide eyes. "Ethan," he whispered, "that's the cops." My heart stopped. "Open up. Police." The voice on the other side was sharp, commanding, the kind of voice that didn't ask. It ordered. For a split second, I thought about running again, out the back window, into the woods, disappearing like a ghost. But then I caught my reflection in the cracked mirror above the sink. Bloodshot eyes, split lip, the outsider, the monster they'd made me. Running wouldn't save me. Not this time. When the door crashed open, splinters flying, I lifted my hands. I didn't kill her. I shouted before they even touched me. It wasn't me, but the cops didn't care. Their boots slammed against the floor as they stormed in, their guns drawn, their hands gripping me hard enough to leave bruises. They slammed me against the wall, cold metal cuffs biting into my wrists. "You're under arrest for the murder of Linda Carter," one officer barked. The words hit harder than any punch Daniel had ever thrown at me. Murder. They weren't charging me with fighting or assault. They were pinning my mother's death directly on me. My knees buckled, but they dragged me out anyway. Tyler shouted something behind me, but I couldn't hear it. My ears were ringing, my vision swimming, as they shoved me into the back of the squad car. As we drove away, red and blue lights flashing against the snow, I realized the trap was set. Daniel and my father had done it. They had painted me as the killer, and now the whole town would believe them. Because who wouldn't? The outsider, the angry son, the one who had caused a scene at dinner, the one who had always been different. By the time they hauled me into the police station, the news was already spreading. I saw reporters outside, cameras flashing like fireworks. "Ethan Carter arrested for murdering his mother." The headline practically wrote itself. Inside, the questions came fast. "Why did you do it, Ethan? Did you mean to kill her, or was it an accident? Did your brother try to stop you?" I shouted until my throat burned. It wasn't me. Daniel pushed her. My father saw it. But the detectives only exchanged looks, scribbling notes, their eyes cold and skeptical. They didn't believe me. Nobody did. Hours blurred together until I was finally thrown into a holding cell. The metal bars clanged shut, The sound final like a coffin ceiling. I sat on a hard bench, my head in my hands, the smell of sweat and bleach stinging my nose. Across from me, another inmate smirked. "What's your story, kid?" he asked. I didn't answer. What was I supposed to say? That my brother killed our mother, and my father blamed me to save him? It sounded insane, even to me. But as the hours dragged on, anger burned hotter inside me. They wanted me to take the fall. They wanted me to rot in prison, while Daniel walked free. Not this time. I didn't know how yet, but I swore to myself I would make them pay. Every single one of them. The next morning, they marched me into court for the arraignment. The courtroom was packed, journalists, neighbors, people I hadn't seen in years. All of them staring at me like I was an animal in a cage. And there in the front row sat my father and Daniel. Daniel wore a sling on his arm, a bandage where I had cut him with a broken bottle. He looked fragile, pitiful, like the victim. My father had his arm around him, his face grim, but I saw it, the satisfaction in his eyes. He had won. For now, when the judge read the charges, second-degree murder, I felt the room tilt. Life in prison. That's what they were aiming for. My attorney, some public defender who barely looked at me, whispered, "Don't worry, we'll fight this." But his voice carried no conviction. Then it got worse. Daniel took the stand. He looked straight at me, his eyes cold, his voice trembling just enough to seem believable. "He snapped," Daniel said. "He's always been angry, always jealous. When Mom tried to calm him down, he shoved her. She hit her head. I tried to stop him, but he attacked me too." The courtroom gasped. Some woman in the back cried. My father bowed his head like he was grieving. Every word was a lie, a carefully crafted performance. And everyone believed it. When they finally called me up, I told the truth. I told them everything. But I could see it in their eyes. Nobody bought it. I was the outsider, the black sheep, the liar. By the time the hearing ended, I was ordered back to jail without bail. As the guards dragged me out, I caught Daniel's smirk. Just for a second. Small, subtle, but I saw it. And in that moment, I knew two things for sure. One, I was going to prison. Two, I wasn't going to survive it unless I found a way to fight back. That night in my cell, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my fists clenched. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed above me. But my mind was louder. I thought about every time my mother had called me a mistake. Every time my father had ignored me. Every cruel joke Daniel had made at my expense. And then I thought about the blood. Her blood. His blood. Mine. If they wanted a monster, they were going to get one. The plan didn't come to me all at once. It crept in slowly, like shadows seeping into a room. But by dawn, I had made up my mind. I wasn't going to sit quietly and let them bury me alive. I was going to turn the game around. And the first step was finding someone inside this prison who could help me. Someone dangerous enough to make Daniel and my father regret ever crossing me. But fate beat me to it. Because the very next morning, as I walked into the prison yard, a man twice my size stepped in front of me. Tattoos covered his neck. His eyes were cold, sharp, calculating. "You're Carter's boy, huh?" he said, his voice like gravel. "I heard what you did. I heard you got a score to settle." I froze, my heart pounding. "Who are you?" I asked. The man smiled, showing a row of broken teeth. "Let's just say," he whispered, "I'm the guy who's going to help you burn your whole family to the ground." The man's words sank into me like hooks. Burn your whole family to the ground. For a moment, I thought he was just messing with me, the way hardened inmates haze fresh meat. But the way he looked at me, steady, sharp, like he already knew my entire story, made my skin crawl. "My name's Marcus," he said finally, offering his hand like we were meeting at a business deal instead of in a prison yard. His grip was rough, callous, but firm. "And I know all about your daddy." My chest tightened. "You know my father?" Marcus smirked. "Robert Carter, the big shot lawyer? Everyone knows him. Got half the criminals in this state locked up, including some friends of mine. You think you're the first Carter to step foot in here? Nah, you're just the first one dumb enough to get framed." I swallowed hard. He wasn't wrong. "Why do you care?" I asked cautiously. His smirk faded. He leaned closer, his voice dropping low. Because revenge, kid, revenge is the only thing worth living for in a place like this. And you? You've got the perfect story. The perfect reason. The kind of thing men like me respect. The way he said it sent a chill down my spine. But at the same time, it lit something inside me. For the first time since the arrest, I didn't feel completely alone. From that day on, Marcus took me under his wing. He showed me the unspoken rules of survival. Who to avoid, who to pay off, how to watch your back when even the guards want to see you bleed. He wasn't kind. Marcus wasn't capable of kindness. But he was ruthless, and that was what I needed. At night, lying on my bunk, I thought about my family. My father sitting in his leather chair, sipping whiskey like nothing happened. Daniel walking around free, milking sympathy from neighbors, telling anyone who'd listen how his brother had lost it. The anger boiled in me until it felt like poison in my veins. "You've got potential," Marcus told me one evening as we worked out in the yard. "You're smart, patient. You just need to learn how to strike. And when you do, strike hard." "Strike who?" I asked, panting, sweat dripping down my face. He smiled. "Everyone who ever made you feel small." Those words stuck. Weeks passed, and every day I grew harder, meaner, stronger. The boy who had once begged for his family's approval was gone. In his place was someone colder. Someone who no longer dreamed of being accepted, but of watching the Carters crumble. Still, prison had a way of breaking you down when you least expected it. One night, I got a letter. The guard slid it through the bars, smirking like he knew it would hurt. I tore it open, my hand shaking. It was from Daniel. "Dear Ethan, I don't know if you'll ever forgive yourself, but you should. After all, Mom was never going to love you anyway. At least now you got your own story. Too bad it ends behind bars. Dad and I will be just fine without you. Merry Christmas, little brother." There was a smiley face at the end. A cruel, mocking smiley face. I ripped the letter to shreds, my teeth grinding until my jaw hurt. Marcus found me pacing in my cell, shaking with rage. "Good," he said when I told him. "Hate is fuel. Use it." And I did. I started planning. Not just how to prove my innocence. I knew that was impossible with my father's influence. No, my plan was bigger. I wasn't going to beg the world to believe me. I was going to make them choke on the truth. But then, just as I was finding my footing, everything flipped again. One morning, guards stormed into the cell block, barking orders. "Carter, on your feet." My stomach dropped. "Why? What's going on?" They didn't answer. They cuffed me, dragged me out, and shoved me into a small interrogation room. My father was waiting there. He looked older, more tired, his hair grayer than I remembered, but his eyes were the same, cold, sharp, always calculating. "Ethan," he said quietly, almost like he cared, "you don't belong here." I laughed bitterly. "No kidding. You put me here." His jaw tightened. "Listen to me. If you cooperate, if you stop fighting this, I can make it easier on you. Reduce sentence. Maybe even early release." I stared at him, stunned. "You want me to confess to something I didn't do?" "You did do it," he snapped, his mask cracking for a second. "You were reckless. You caused your mother's death. If you take responsibility, Daniel won't have to suffer. We can bury this quietly." There it was. The truth. He didn't come to save me. He came to protect Daniel. "You'd let your own son rot in prison," I said slowly, my voice shaking. "Just to save him?" "He's my real son," my father whispered, his words like knives. "You were always just a complication." The room spun. For a moment, I thought I'd pass out. All the whispers, all the cold stares, all the rejection. It was true. I was never a Carter. I was never a son. Something inside me broke. I leaned forward, my cuffed hands trembling. "If I ever get out of here, Dad," I said, my voice low, deadly calm, "I will destroy you, both of you. And when I'm done, the world will know exactly what you did." His face paled just for a second. Then he stood up, smoothing his suit. "You'll never get out," he said flatly. And then he left. the door slamming behind him. I sat there, shaking, my mind a storm of fury and despair. For the first time, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was survival. If I didn't find a way out, they'd bury me alive in here, and I'd never get the chance to fight back. When the guards dragged me back to my cell, Marcus was waiting. "Well," he asked. I told him everything. His face darkened. "Then it's settled," he said. "We're not waiting for the system to save you. We're going to break you out." I froze. "What?" Marcus leaned close, his voice a whisper. "I've been planning it for years. Never had a reason to pull the trigger. Until now. You want revenge? You want freedom? This is how we get both." My chest pounded. Escape. It was insane. Impossible. And yet it was my only chance. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the sound of inmates snoring all around me. The thought echoed in my head like a drumbeat. Escape. 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 But fate, as always, didn't give me time to breathe. Because the very next morning, before Marcus and I could even start, chaos erupted. An inmate fight broke out in the yard. Louder, bloodier than anything I'd seen. Shouts. Screams. Guards rushing in with batons. And then, through the chaos, I saw him, Daniel, standing on the other side of the fence, smiling at me. He was inside the prison walls. But why? At first, I thought my mind was playing tricks on me. The yard was chaos, men brawling, guards swinging batons, whistles shrieking. But through all of it, I saw him, Daniel, my brother, the golden child, standing on the other side of the chain-link fence with that same smug smile plastered across his face. He wasn't supposed to be there. He was free, untouchable, protected by my father's power. Yet there he was, staring at me like I was an animal in a cage, and he was the one holding the keys. "Daniel," I whispered under my breath, my heart pounding in my chest. Marcus noticed me freeze. He followed my gaze, then cursed under his breath. "That him? The brother?" "Yes," I said, my voice trembling. "What the hell is he doing here?" Marcus's eyes narrowed. "He's taunting you. And if he's here, trust me, this ain't a visit. He came to bury you deeper." Before I could respond, a fist slammed into my ribs. One of the inmates had joined the fight and chosen me as his target. Pain exploded through my side as I staggered back, nearly falling to the ground. But when I looked up again, Daniel was gone. Just like that. Vanished. The guards dragged us back inside after the brawl, shoving us into our cells like wild dogs thrown into cages. My body ached, but it wasn't the punches that hurt most. It was the image of Daniel, standing there, watching me. I couldn't shake it. That night, Marcus leaned on the bars between our cells, his voice low. "He's playing with you. Your father's pulling strings to make your life hell in here. Visits, messages, maybe worse." "Why?" I whispered. "Why not just leave me here to rot?" Marcus's eyes hardened. "Because they're scared of you. Scared of what happens if you ever get out. So they're making sure you break before you even get the chance." And he was right. The next week was hell. Inmates I'd never spoken to started picking fights with me. Food went missing from my tray. My bunk was trashed when I came back from the yard. Someone even slipped a razor blade under my pillow. It wasn't random. It was orchestrated. Every night, I lay awake wondering if Daniel would show up again, if my father was paying off the guards, if I was one wrong move away from ending up dead in a prison fight, staged to look like an accident. But then, just when I thought I couldn't take any more, another letter came. This time, it wasn't from Daniel. It was from my aunt, my mother's sister. "Ethan, I don't know what's true anymore. Your father told everyone you lost your mind, that you killed Linda in a fit of rage. But I was at the dinner table that night. I saw Daniel push her. I saw your father cover for him. I don't know how long I can stay quiet. I thought you should know. At least someone believes you." My hands shook as I read it, tears burning my eyes. For the first time since the nightmare began, I wasn't completely alone. Someone had seen the truth, but then fear struck me. If she had written this, if she had dared to expose what really happened, My father would silence her. He had too much power, too much to lose. I needed to protect her. But I couldn't, not from behind bars. Marcus, I whispered that night, clutching the letter, we have to move faster. We have to escape. If we don't, they'll kill her too. Marcus studied me for a long moment, then nodded. All right, kid, we'll do it. Tomorrow night. Be ready. Tomorrow night. The words echoed in my skull as the day dragged on. Every second felt like a countdown. My chest buzzed with adrenaline, fear, rage, all tangled together. When night finally fell, Marcus slipped into motion. He had bribed one of the guards months earlier, promised him a cut from a stash waiting on the outside. That guard unlocked the service corridor leading to the laundry room. Stay close, Marcus whispered. We crept through the shadows, my heart hammering so loud I was sure it would give us away. The air smelled of bleach and sweat. Every step felt like a gun pressed against my back. Then, just as we reached the laundry door, a figure stepped out of the dark. Daniel. My breath caught in my throat. He wasn't supposed to be here. He couldn't be here. But he was, flanked by 2 guards. He smiled that same sick smile. Going somewhere, little brother? Marcus froze, his fists clenching. This ain't possible, he muttered. Dad told me you'd try this, Daniel said, his voice calm, almost amused. He knows you too well, Ethan. You never could just take your punishment like a man. Always whining, always blaming someone else. And now, you're going to die in here. Tonight. Before I could move, one of the guards pulled a baton. The other drew a knife. Not standard issue. This wasn't an arrest. This was an execution. Marcus shoved me back. Run, he barked. But I couldn't move. I was frozen, staring into Daniel's eyes, seeing nothing but hatred. The guards lunged. Marcus swung first, grabbing the one with the knife, twisting his arm until bone cracked. Blood sprayed as Marcus drove the blade into his chest. The other guard slammed his baton into Marcus's head. He staggered, blood gushing, but he didn't fall. He roared like an animal and tackled the guard, the 2 of them crashing into the laundry carts. Go, Ethan, Marcus shouted, his voice raw, desperate. But I still couldn't move. Not until Daniel stepped closer, his smile widening. You're weak, he whispered. You've always been weak. That's why Mom hated you. That's why Dad never wanted you. And that's why you'll die in a cage while I live free. Something inside me snapped. I lunged at him, my fist swinging, years of rage pouring out. He stumbled back, his smirk finally fading as I drove him against the wall. But then a gunshot cracked the air. Marcus fell to the ground, blood pouring from his chest, his eyes wide in shock. Daniel's guards weren't the only ones my father had bought. The warden stood at the end of the hall, gun smoking in his hand. End it, he growled. The gunshot rang in my ears like thunder. Marcus lay sprawled on the concrete, his chest heaving, blood soaking through his shirt in dark rivers. His eyes locked onto mine, wide with pain, but still burning with that same fire he'd carried since the day I met him. Don't stop, he gasped, his voice barely a whisper. Then his head dropped, and the light in his eyes went out. Marcus was gone. The man who had taught me how to survive, how to fight back, how to turn my rage into a weapon, dead. And I was next. The warden lowered his gun slowly, smoke still curling from the barrel. His face was stone, no emotion, no hesitation. Orders are orders, he said flatly. Daniel straightened his shirt, brushing dust from his collar. His smirk returned, that same sick grin that haunted me in my sleep. I told you, Ethan, you'll never win. You'll always be the outsider. The words hit harder than the gunshot. The rage boiled in me, so hot it burned to the fear. My fists clenched until my nails dug into my palms. I thought of my mother's body on the floor, my father's cold eyes as he called me a complication, Daniel's letters mocking me. No, not this time. I lunged at Daniel, raw fury driving me forward. We slammed into the wall, the chain link rattle of the laundry cages echoing as I rained blows down on him. Years of humiliation, of rejection, of being called a mistake. All of it poured out in every punch. But Daniel wasn't weak. He fought back, his fists cracking against my jaw, his knees slamming into my ribs. We grappled like wild animals, blood mixing with sweat, teeth gritted in pure hatred. The warden raised his gun again. Enough! I heard the trigger click. And then chaos. The inmates. They had heard the shot. They had seen Marcus fall. Now they were pouring into the hall, a wave of fury, outnumbering the guards. Shouts filled the air, fists swung, blood sprayed. The prison erupted into a riot. The warden was swallowed by the mob, his gun ripped from his hand. Guards were dragged down, beaten, their batons turned against them. And in the middle of it all, Daniel and I kept fighting. He grabbed a shard of glass from a broken window and slashed at me, the blade grazing my arm. I roared, tackling him to the floor, my hands wrapping around his throat. His eyes bulged, his face turning red as I squeezed. For a moment, I wanted to end it right there, to finally erase him. But then I heard a voice in my head. Marcus's voice. Don't stop. Don't just kill them. Destroy them. Killing Daniel would end him, but destroying him, making the world see what he really was, that would end everything they had built. I released him, shoving him back against the wall. He coughed, clutching his throat, his smirk gone, replaced by real fear. You're not the golden boy anymore. I spat. You're nothing, and I'm going to make the whole world see it. Before he could respond, the riot swallowed us both. Hands grabbed me, shoving me toward the service corridor. Inmates who had seen everything, who had hated the Carters as much as Marcus did, cleared a path. Go, kid, one of them shouted. This is your shot. I staggered through the chaos, blood dripping from my face, my heart pounding like a war drum. Behind me, Daniel screamed my name. Guards tried to pull him out, but the inmates dragged him down, fists slamming into him, his cries lost in the storm. And then I was outside. The cold December air hit me like a slap. Sirens wailed in the distance, searchlights sweeping the prison yard. I ran, my legs burning, my breath sharp in my throat. I didn't stop, not until the lights faded and the world around me turned quiet. I was free, but freedom didn't taste sweet. It tasted like blood and smoke and vengeance unfinished. Because my father was still out there, powerful, untouchable, and Daniel, whether he survived the riot or not, was still a ghost haunting me. I stood on a hill overlooking the prison, the snow crunching under my boots, my breath forming clouds in the frozen air. The Carter family was broken, my mother dead, my brother ruined, my father exposed for what he truly was. But it wasn't enough. I pulled the crumpled letter from my aunt out of my pocket, the one proof I had that the truth existed, my only weapon. This isn't over, I whispered into the night, because I wasn't just going to get revenge anymore. I was going to burn the Carter name to ash. And this time, the whole world was going to watch.